Being a first-time home buyer has never been more challenging. With home values on the rise and current interest rates making affordability even tougher, it's easy to get lost when researching mortgage options online. Fortunately, the Hood team at Mason Mac Mortgage has licensed lenders who genuinely prioritize making housing accessible for everyone. As an approved Virginia housing lender, the Hood team provides multiple first-time buyer programs, grant funds, and second mortgages for qualified buyers. Visit www.weloverva.com or call 804-335-9683 to apply or learn more.
I've done nothing.
It's because Dan's not here. It's all Dan's fault. Oh, all right. We start every show off with my complaints about Dan. Just kidding. Sort of. All right.
Come on, Dan.
Huh?
This is why you need a who the F is Dan second.
It doesn't matter who he is because he's never here. Welcome back, everybody, to Homeownership Explained, the podcast that does its very, very best to save you time, money, and stress when it comes to managing the biggest investment of your life, your home. As always, I am your host, J. Raleigh Hood, at J. Raleigh Hood on Instagram, and a notorious poster and ghoster on a lot of other stuff. It's heating up in Richmond here already, and that's why I'm already calling this Spicy Mustard Summer. So today, I thought it would be fitting to interview Scottie Walker, owner and master technician for Woodland Mechanical. Scottie is a referral partner of mine. He also holds the service contract at my home, and he has the most badass truck in the game. Before that, we're going to kick it to the very first installment of fan feedback. There were two primary areas of feedback. One of the good things about being somebody who's known for speaking his mind, or some would even say saying everything that comes to mind, friends and other folks are inclined to do the same. So I got a lot of really helpful and honest feedback up front. And I encourage that moving forward from everybody, really. I want to make this podcast something that is actually valuable and enjoyable for every homeowner and aspiring homeowner. The easiest way for me to get that is to engage with my audience and to get feedback on what people like and what they don't like. I'll tell you what people don't like: my microphone prowess. I have performed on stage with microphones for 20 plus years. That being said, I'm a little handsy when I get into a conversation when it comes to the microphone, and I now acknowledge that. The feedback ranged from, why does Raleigh hate the microphone? Does Raleigh know how microphones work? Does Raleigh know that the microphone doesn't go in his mouth? Does anyone know that when they gesture with a microphone and hold it away from their face, nobody can hear them? And my reply, simply, notes taken. I've been lucky enough to pick the brain of somebody who is frankly elite in the field of filming and editing. Thank you, Tina. And I have new software and some amazing Adobe filters that are going to make me sound so much better. Also, I got boom stands, so I'm going to keep my hands off the mics. Sorry. The Dan interview is the last one. I promise. I won't be a gorilla anymore. The second piece of feedback, and by far the most overwhelming, the loudest feedback, it ranged from, who is Dan? Where is Dan? Why are we not allowed to see Dan? We like Dan. We want to see Dan. But fine, I'll say nothing else. If Dan is going to talk, we gotta see him. There was one person who was actually pro not seeing Dan, but that was his sister, and that's between them. My reply to that concern: noted. And if you're over 30 and have kids, you know how hard it is to coordinate and plan basically anything with your friends. And Dan has been very involved in this from the beginning. And so when we got the opportunity, I actually sat down and podcasted with him for 2 or 3 hours. Don't worry, I edited it down to the most useful bits for this podcast, and that will follow my interview with Scottie Walker. So without further ado, let's kick it to that. All right, today's guest is Scottie Walker with Woodland Mechanical. Scottie, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Raleigh. How about yourself?
I am doing fantastic. Today, I realized that everybody I've interviewed on a podcast has never been on a podcast. So my question for you, have you ever been on a podcast?
No, I have not. This will be my first one.
Bang. So the goal for this is you just sharing information with homeowners, would-be homeowners that are saving them time, saving them money, and then at the same time, hopefully showcasing yourself as sort of an expert. And what I'm not an expert of is having my questions. It's because Dan's not here. It's all Dan's fault. Oh, all right. We start every show off with my complaints about Dan. Just kidding. Sort of. Tell me about your kind of background. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
Been here in Richmond now 20 years consistently.
Okay.
Live out in Tappahannock.
Okay. So how long has Woodland Mechanical been around?
Woodland Mechanical, we have been in business now for 2 years. I've been doing HVAC now for 12 years.
Okay. And who were you with beforehand?
Right before I opened the company, I was with a commercial company, Remco, based out of Pennsylvania. Do all commercial work. Before that, I was with another local company in Scott's Addition. I was with them for probably 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
And then I just decided this was time to do my own thing.
Yeah. I mean, dude, how long has it been since you joined our networking group?
Probably 8 months ago, September of 23.
And from my end, it looks like your growth has been very quick, rapid.
It definitely has. So this last 8 to 9 months, actually since I've joined the 212 group, it has just taken off, man. I'm super busy right now. We're booking everybody out till June. Squeezing in people where we can squeeze them, getting them in on the weekends, working the long nights. So, we're here for everybody.
Yeah, I would imagine everybody's doing what I'm doing, which is like making sure everything is clean, ready to go, and that you're not going to lose your system.
Exactly. When I get back to the house, I'm just unloading the trailer, getting all the trash off, getting all the new stuff back on there, going over the schedule, just getting everybody lined up, try to stay ahead of the game.
Yeah. And so I'm doing the twice-a-year service plan. Is that kind of your recommended base level for a homeowner?
It is. So the one you're on, the twice a year, that is definitely, this industry is what we try to get people on.
And what's the reason, like the rationale behind that is?
The reason why we want to do it twice a year, we want to get in there right before it gets too hot out. We want to turn it on. We want to take it apart, clean it, test the operations, make sure that it's doing what it needs to do so it doesn't leave you out when it does get 100 degrees outside. We want to catch things before it becomes a problem and address them at that time versus now it's 99 degrees outside, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and nothing's working. And then we want to get out there in the wintertime in the fall. We want to check all the heating stuff out. We want to make sure that your heating bills aren't going to get too high because there's a faulty part or anything like that. So it's very important to get it twice a year. No different than getting your oil change on your vehicle, getting your check out on your health.
Yeah.
No difference. Very important. HVAC, in my opinion, is probably the second most important thing in your home besides the roof, which covers your home.
I would say I'm kind of like proof of your logic, which is I thought my unit, I have 2 units. It's not like I don't pay attention to them. And you told me that one of them wasn't even working correctly or at all. And I didn't even notice. And I cannot wait to see what my bills are going to look like now, because I think I've been dogging one system way too hard for way too long.
Definitely was overworking one of them, but who knows how long the one system wasn't working. I just noticed it when I was there, but I'm glad we were able to get it back up and running. It was nothing serious. So that was always a huge plus for us. Makes my life even easier.
My producer for the show, Dan, who I referenced earlier, he is definitely more knowledgeable, like nuts and bolts stuff with houses. He is super mad that he couldn't be here because he actually wrote down questions for me to ask you. And one of his long opinions has been that a 2-story home with like proper hard ducts and dampers, am I saying that right?
Yes, sir.
One system's totally enough. Do you agree or disagree with that?
It depends on how well the home is insulated. It's a lot of factors involved. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's very hard to get it 100% correct without the assistance of electronic zone dampers. If we're just doing regular standard ductwork, two trunk systems and a manual damper, it'll work. Not the most efficient thing, but it'll definitely work. Okay.
I feel like the only way that most people learn about home ownership, other than this podcast, you're welcome, is kind of trial and error. Something broke. I took case in point, the duct work in my house was dirty as hell. I didn't even know you were supposed to clean that. I thought it was all contained. You don't know what you don't know.
Yep, exactly. You definitely want to keep all the ductwork clean for sure, because that's everything you're breathing. If you aren't the original owner of that house, then you're breathing in somebody else's hair follicles. Whatever was in that ductwork from the previous owners is now in there, and you're breathing that in regardless if you know it or not. Highly recommend, getting the ductwork serviced, IQ products, that's your home. You want to make sure that you and your family are breathing good air and that you guys are healthy.
So you own a home yourself, correct?
Yes, sir, I do.
Out in Tappahannock?
I do.
When did you buy that house?
In October of 2020.
Ooh, okay. How was that experience?
It was great, actually.
Really?
Ours was very smooth. Luckily, my wife is a real estate agent. I found the house, and we were able to, get a real good deal for what we got.
That's awesome, man. And I'm sure you've gotten an insane amount of appreciation since then.
Yes. Yes, our interest rate is great.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I got under contract November 2020, closed February 2021. And like, even before I signed documents, I was already in the green. Like, that was the time to like lock in. And people are always complaining to me, like, trying to time the market and stuff like that. Like, unless you get a once in a lifetime opportunity, which that was a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yes, it was.
I call them unicorn interest rates for a reason. It is not likely to come back. We're lucky, but you can't bank on lucky.
No, can't bank on luck at all. Like I said, our process was super easy, very smooth for us. We didn't have to look at a ton of houses. We looked at maybe 10 houses, and I found the one that we are living in. So,
And your loan went smooth?
Loan went smooth.
I don't want to hear about that then. What's a typical day in the life for you?
Typical day in the life of Scottie. Just like anybody else, man. I wake up in the morning, I turn the news on, I'm making coffee, getting my schedule ready for the day.
What's morning for you?
Get up about 4 a.m. every morning, watching the news, sometimes earlier. Jobs for the day, the customers, homeowners, business owners, whichever, if it's commercial or residential. They'll also get a email letting them know that we're on the way and that we are scheduled for that day. My day could change. I could wake up, I could start doing maintenances. By the end of the day, I'm doing service calls across the state, working in a commercial building. So, homeowner calls in saying the unit's not working. We got some repairs to do. Parts have been ordered. Just got to pick them up and get the repairs done. So it changes. I got a whole full install coming up. New ductwork because we do everything.
And you should, I feel like I remember you showed a picture. You have the machine where you make the ductwork yourself, right?
I make some of it. Yes, I do. We have brakes and, sheet metal equipment. I make a lot of it by hand. It's time consuming, but I like it. I like making it by hand. It shows craftsmanship. I just like it, man. It's no different than a carpenter. You're actually doing it, and I can take a piece of flat metal and design it, and I can turn into whatever I need it to be.
That's pretty cool. So what are common mistakes that you see in terms of like HVAC and home ownership? If people ask me what kind of grinds your gears about mortgage, I can fire off 10 things anytime. Every loan has closing costs, for example.
So on the homeowner's end, if that's what we're getting into, on the homeowner's end, what I see is just lack of maintenance on the equipment. Negligence, either be because they don't know or just forgot or don't care. Main thing is keeping the filters changed regularly. I would highly advise them setting schedules up on their calendars to go off and remind them.
Or you can do Amazon like I do. Just have them shipped to your house. Yep. They show up. You just get them out of the way, put them in.
Yep. Or they can, get in contact with their local company. They can give us a call, Woodland Mechanical, or they can get in contact with somebody that they trust and get them on a plan and get them taken care of. Also, another thing for homeowners to understand is when you're cutting grass and you got your outdoor unit sitting over there, after you're done cutting the grass, chances are you might wash your lawnmower off with the water hose. Go ahead and go over to the outdoor unit, because I know you done slung grass all up on the coil. Go ahead and give that a good wash off too before you put the lawnmower back up. Now you know that your condenser's nice and clean, and we're not going to have any issues. Now you have to call us out just to come wash it off because it's too dirty.
I have seen, I grew up in Chesterfield, tons of like little wooded areas and stuff. And I have seen like units just full of, I remember as a kid, just like, that doesn't look right. We're breeding that though, right?
Yep. You got to get all the leaves out of the units. Where the outdoor units are sitting and we have leaves and mulch and everything just piled up around it, well, that's going to start rusting the cabinets out. And then, as you know, we start having problems from there. Contractors the most common things we see, in my opinion, are going to be incorrect installation practices, whether they didn't read the manual correctly. Different manufacturers, different style systems require different things.
Okay.
A lot of it has to do with the drain lines, not having proper fall to drain the water out properly. And again, duct sizing and equipment sizing. That is one of the biggest problems that we see is people will just look at a unit, won't do a proper load calculation on the home or the business or the building. That is by far probably the most problem that I see. Almost every unit is actually oversized for the property.
Really?
Yes, because how we design it is for peak loads.
Okay.
As in the hottest day or the coldest day of the year. Well, that only happens a handful of times out the year. So for the rest of the year, your system's actually technically oversized.
So this actually, that spurred a question that I've always had. Somebody told me, like, you know, I was a bartender for a long time. So when those automatic thermostats came out as far as like smart and stuff like that, I had a buddy tell me, he's like, that's horrible for your HVAC, having it go up and down all day. And I logged that as a fact, and I have never owned one for that reason because that logic made sense to me. And so my question to you is, can I buy one of those, or is it a bad idea?
I mean,
is it undue stress? Maybe.
No, you can definitely do that. Auto features good. Depending on what you have, you can also set limits on the auto to where you can have your heat set on at a certain point, and then your coolant can set on at a certain point. And we try to leave like a 5 to 8 degree difference to where you have to have a drastic temperature change so it's not cycling on and then cycling off. We also recommend using, if you are going to be replacing your equipment, you might want to look at doing equipment with multiple stages on the compressor and variable speed capabilities. At that point, we can control a lot of the humidity and probably prevent a lot of short cycling.
So is that something people should ask for kind of directly to either you
For
or
sure.
whoever they have?
They definitely should be asking, but also their local company that they use, people that they trust should also be knowledgeable and be offering those options. It's on us as a contractor to offer the best options available for their application. That's on us to keep up with the knowledge and, the way things are changing in the HVAC field.
Yeah.
We can't expect the homeowners and other building owners to know all the, what I'm looking for here, all the
It's nuances and updates and
exactly.
technology.
All the styles of stuff that we have out there and everything to keep up with. It's not on them. It's on us to provide that knowledge.
Yeah. So I told you my producer had written down some questions.
Of
Dan
course.
is very passionate about HVAC. I'm going to be honest. I don't know what all of these mean, but I wrote them down. All right. Number 1, why is manual D so expensive?
So it just takes a long time to do all these calculations,
What is manual D?
So it's just how I was talking about earlier. It's duct design. So
Okay.
how I'm talking about earlier with duct sizing and load calculations for your home, it's a lot that goes involved in this. We have manual D, manual S, manual J. Depending on what we're trying to do, it's a lot of time, measurements, experience, and the software now that we use to do this stuff.
Software like program the unit itself.
There's programs that we can do that we use to input all these measurements, and it gives us solutions to our problems. So it's just a long process. This isn't something you just walk in and walk out like a refrigerator and plug it in. Everything's got to be done to a certain standard, or else it's gonna be nothing but problems.
Yeah, I mean,
So it's just very important. That's why it costs a little bit of money. Some people are more expensive than others. It's just the amount of time and effort involved and knowledge involved in doing these things.
yeah, it sounds very crafted.
It's very crafted. A lot of people out there know what they're doing. So that this is to make sure everything is perfect for the application.
Number 2, do duct dampers really work?
Yes. Duct dampers, yes, they do. Properly installed and balanced, they will definitely work. Again, it's just all about the application and having somebody there to be able to measure the airflow going to each room. So yeah, they're very important, and they work as long as they're installed correctly.
Follow up, how do they work?
How dampers work? Say we have, this is hypothetical, we have 5 rooms in a house.
Okay.
Each room has one vent. That's just all hypothetical. And down underneath of the house in the crawl space, we'll have a duct system. And off of that duct system is 5 runs. And each of those supply runs are going to go to each of those rooms. So say room number 3 is a little too hot, not getting enough of the cool air, but room number 1 is way too cold.
Okay.
So I can take room number 1 and try to balance that one down to force more air to go into rooms 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we can start balancing the other dampers to get them all as close to perfect as possible.
Gotcha. Jesus, sounds tedious. That sounds very tedious.
It takes a lot of time. And there are certain tools that can help us with that as well.
Number 3, are zoned systems more efficient? This is all, you don't have to like hang your hat on any of this. You can just say,
again,
like, I don't want to make you have a polar like HVAC take out there.
No. So, again, all these things are very highly effective depending on the application and installation. The key is just knowing how to install this product in a certain application. They all have their pros and cons. Zoning system is great as long as it is done perfect. You got to do the manual S, manual D, manual J. All of that has to be perfect. And then there's an extra set of stuff to do for a zoning system because they're so sensitive. Cons of a zoned system is you have one system doing the entire structure. If that system goes down, the entire structure has nothing. If you separate the systems and you have, say, one system for the first floor and one system for the second floor, if something ever was to happen, now you can escape and go to the room that is more comfortable while the other one is still waiting to be repaired.
That makes sense. Number 4, R134A. Is it dangerous for the environment? Also, what is it?
So that's a loaded question. I don't have all that in front of me at the moment. It's just a refrigerant that is typically used,
That's what I figured.
believe. Just a refrigerant. Yeah,
That's what I figured.
It's just some Freon. No, it's
Don't touch it though.
Yeah, don't touch it. It's just like any other refrigerant. You don't want to be breathing it in or anything like that. You don't want to be huffing it.
I mean, is there a refrigerant that is safe, or is there just some that are better than others?
Yes. So 134A. Understand, there's a lot of different refrigerants. Pretty sure 134A is what we use in your car.
Okay.
I believe it's also used in some refrigeration products as well.
Okay.
And I also believe it's the other half of the makeup of 410A refrigerant.
Dude, manual J, manual D, 430. No, this sounds like my industry. All right. So he has a question, this or that question, and then he predicted your answer. This must have been a ton of coffee. Gas or electric?
Gas or electric? Ooh, that's a good one.
He's probably coming from personal preference. Like if your house ground up build.
Personal preference, my house ground up build, I had all the money in the world. I'm probably going to go geothermal. But
bet he says geothermal was what Dan wrote down.
Yep.
God, I'm going to have to cut this out now.
I think he does HVAC before. I think this guy's done it before.
He's flipped a house before.
Okay, so I know he knows something.
There's a reason I involved him. It's not just because he's my brother-in-law's brother-in-law. Cool. That's really funny. All right, so why?
I mean, it's just the most efficient. You can probably get SEER rating 30, 40, SEER 2. It's just you're using the groundwater to really do your refrigeration cycle and keep everything cool versus relying on hot or cold air to help with the heat transfer. We're using rainwater, groundwater. It's just extremely expensive to do geothermal. But to your question, gas or electric, if geothermal is not an option, I like the combination of a hybrid system, what we call dual fuel system. If it was up to me, I'm going to use natural gas as my backup heat with a variable speed heat pump.
Okay.
To where I can heat down to, 10, 20 degrees outside before my gas heat kicks in. But then I always have the option to have the gas heat if I just don't think the heat pump is doing enough. Okay. So I have the best of both worlds.
Have you ever dreamed of a gas furnace / hot water heater hybrid?
No such thing as a hot water heater. It's a water heater.
Ooh, I might have added hot, but I'm pretty sure he said hot.
Yeah.
Why would you heat up hot water, Dan?
Yeah, come on, Dan. Honestly, I kind of want to say they have something like that. It's an aquatherm.
Okay.
We're kind of thinking that. I mean, you can have a water heater that is operated by gas to heat the water.
Yeah.
And then we use an aquatherm style. It's a fan coil with a hot water coil in there. So that's essentially the same.
And it's just one unit? Or just like a split up type of thing?
So the aquatherm is actually an air handler. So instead of you having like a gas furnace or an air handler in the attic or in the crawl space or basement, we have what we call a fan coil. It's an aquatherm. It's an air handler with a hot water coil in there.
Okay.
And that gets fed from the water heater.
Okay.
At that point, there's a circulating pump. It just acts like a boiler that you hook up to the ductwork.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
That makes a ton of sense.
Perfect.
Every question, satisfying answer.
Good.
That was awesome. So first podcast, crushed it. If people want to reach out to you, start a conversation, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Again, I'm Scottie. I'm the owner of Woodland Mechanical, LLC. You can get in contact with us. We have a Facebook page, Woodland Mechanical. You can go to woodlandmechanical.com, or you can reach us at 804-921-4847. That is my direct line. You will speak directly to me. So yeah, reach out. If you have any questions, give us a shout.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Hey, appreciate it, Raleigh. I really appreciate it. Good time.
You crushed it. Crushed it, dude.
So good.
I think you just sandbagged me and acted like you were nervous. All right.
I'm a good talker.
In this last interview, I'll be sitting down with my producer, Dan Putnam. Dan is a former salesperson, now management in his own commercial field. He's also a fix and flipper. He is a philanthropist, and he is my brother-in-law's brother-in-law. He's my producer for this podcast. I think that the stories that we get into here show exactly what my why is behind this podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to... Welcome back, Dan. On a day that we're not doing a podcast. Day that we're doing a podcast, not here. Day that we're not doing a podcast, here.
It's a personal choice.
I got a lot going on today.
Yeah.
How about,
You look like you got a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How about I got a lot going on up here?
Yeah. No, thanks for fitting me in.
So the way that you told me I have to start the show is that I sell the Patreon, QR codes, NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing shoes?
Doing shoes.
You did DP ones?
Yeah, we got shoes out.
Nice. You have a job?
I do have a job. A couple of them.
Tell me about one of them.
I am the principal equal partner in One Source Homes.
What's the
So-
source? Is that a religious thing?
It's a religious thing.
Okay.
We are tax exempt.
Is that just because you don't make any money?
We just don't pay taxes.
All right, so that's one of your boring jobs. What else you got?
I am the volunteer chief financial officer for a nonprofit in Hampton Roads area of Virginia,
Okay, and what's that called?
the Eliza Hope Foundation.
Okay.
They tend to run the organization pretty much themselves. That position also comes with a board membership, so we have quarterly board meetings. By and large, it's mostly me saying no to...
Can we spend money on this?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not that the things are bad.
You do that to me, too.
ideas. I do, yeah, I tend to.
I still do it, though.
All the ideas that we want to spend money on are pretty good ideas, and they probably will happen one day. But from a cash flow perspective, from a protecting the organization financially perspective, we're probably not ready to do some of that stuff.
Would you say it's a passion of yours to keep resources from people that need it?
Yeah, typically withholding is a big way to climb the ladder. Let's say.
Is that what Lindsay's doing?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the ladder going?
No, nowhere for you, buddy.
I don't like ladders.
Yeah, you got an elevator. It just goes down. There's one more. It takes up most of the day. I'm basically an in-house consultant for a company that I used to sell for. BlackRock, right. We go around bullying local news stations out of their ownership and
You're the bully?
yeah, the muscle. Yeah.
What do you wear when you bully
Shorts because calves, and that pretty much does it. It's just not very interesting. It's just kind of dull material, dull
somebody? Sounds like it's your
products.
fault then. They've
Yeah.
never pretended to be
No,
anything
it's-
else.
It kind of helps keep a good balance where I don't
Care.
I'm not overly invested when I
Yeah.
shouldn't be.
That's got to be nice.
There's a quote from the show The Wire when Detective McNulty keeps involving himself where he feels obligated to be involved. And his partner, Bunk Moreland, says to him, McNulty, you're giving a F when it's not your turn to give an F.
Mhm.
Or they call it just a taste when they do it. Just a taste, Bunk, just a taste, McNulty. I'm relatively sure that's his name.
I was just noticing your nod. I feel like that's a tactic. It's a John Taffer thing I've noticed. When he's when he's telling somebody something that he wants them to agree to,
He nods.
he nods like this.
That's an interesting tell.
And then people match him. No, people match him, and then he asks them a question, and they're already nodding. And I know it's on purpose because he's a man that builds butt funnels.
Bar Rescue.
Shut it down. You never watched Bar Rescue?
I've never seen Bar Rescue.
Have you ever heard of Spike TV?
Yeah.
What do you think's on Spike TV?
I don't know.
It's Bar Rescue.
Bar Rescue is on Spike TV right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a bet? How do we know? Jamie, can you see if... Yeah.
Is Jamie a man or a woman? It doesn't matter. Ah, nailed it. When did you first buy a home?
I think we closed October 16th, 2016.
It's Lindsay's birthday.
Is it
One of
really?
them. In Houston?
No, in here in Virginia. In the
You never bought a house in
the
Houston?
house we live in? Nope.
Do you wish that you did?
I'm... No.
'Cause you go to get that insurance
I
money.
don't think so. I'm pretty happy we didn't. Well, we had been gone for years after that. I wouldn't have owned the home then at all.
You don't know.
Yeah, I do.
I decide what happens with the homes that you own.
Okay.
So,
Well, I lived with my parents for a year, and then my then girlfriend, now wife, moved down the following year,
brag.
and we got our first apartment together. We lived there for a year, and then we rented a house for 2.5, 3 years, however long.
Is it because you're indecisive?
We knew we wanted to move back to Virginia.
Mm,
I shouldn't say graduated college. When I finished my 4th year of college, I moved down
that's clever.
and finished up my degree at the University of Houston. And
Did you?
Yep, that's where my degree
Go.
was. Cougars.
R.I.P. Kona Grill.
Bedraggled.
Yeah.
A bedraggled cougar.
That's not a word.
Bedraggled?
I like that.
That's a word. That's a Jim Putnam special.
I like that.
Bedraggled.
That just means you've been
You've
dragged.
been through it.
Is that a real word?
That's a real word.
Always trying to sell me something. You love being a salesperson.
There are 3 roles that you need for something to become a one-off and turn it into a trend. Like Ugg boots or Birkenstocks, that kind of trend.
I read that book.
The tipping
Is this
point?
what you've been doing? Have you been packaging things as your own thoughts?
No.
Okay, good.
No, I fully intend on crediting Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping
Hush
Point.
puppies. It's not Uggs.
Uggs absolutely happened to this.
Yeah, it was. Hush puppies was the example in the book.
Birkenstocks was the example in the book.
Google it.
I don't need to Google it. I've read it many times.
It's hush puppies.
Okay. You're going to Google it?
Mm-hmm.
You want to bet? Name your price.
Dinner.
Okay. This is how you sell.
This is the best day of my life.
All right, now I'm going to Google.
Dan, I Googled shoes in the tipping point.
That's confirmation bias.
I Googled what are the shoes in the tipping point and it said hush puppies. I feel like that's a win.
Google if the earth is flat and see what you get.
No, the earth is roughly a sphere.
Ignore
Google's
that.
batting 1,000 so far.
Ignore that, Frank.
What's your excuse?
I think of myself as the maven, though, in that those 3 roles.
Okay, is that the one who makes something cool?
The connector, the person.
No, that's a thing too. Isn't the connector the thing?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry, I am the connector. You're right.
Should I raise my chair?
You might. I'll sit on the floor.
Am I Shang-Tsunging you right now? I know Malcolm Gladwell books better than you. You're misspeaking.
Shang Tsung?
Yeah, Shang-Tsung, he would steal people's souls.
Mortal
Kombat.
Yeah.
Both the film and the games that traumatized us all as children.
That's why I feel like he would be an excellent entertainer. What comes to mind for a 4-year-old is that a professional wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
He's very entertaining.
I'll reveal something to you. I have been very careful to not let them know that professional wrestling exists.
Really?
They will take to it.
Yeah.
In
I mean,
a
most boys do, I think.
I showed them American Gladiators.
That's a good start. It's a healthy
Within
start.
4 seconds of the joust, they were standing on the couch, kicking each other off the couch.
What about Ninja Warrior? That's versus yourself.
That's modern.
Right?
They've seen that.
Yeah, okay. You want to start off by asking me what I remember about Christmas 2022?
Dan, I come at things hat in hand that I may not always remember things correctly. Let's put it that way. Maybe that makes me unique. Maybe that makes me modest. Maybe that makes me a pragmatist. Maybe
It makes you better than everyone.
Is that not what pragmatist means? We were discussing this. I don't think that I remember what I think is ultimately the impetus to this podcast. I don't remember the events of it play by play. Perhaps you were more
Lucid?
disconnected, lucid. Yeah. I was very invested with I get to say it. The biggest investment of my life, facing the biggest enemy of all homes.
I would go even further. I don't even think it was about your asset. I mean, it was a lot about your asset. I think it was about the idea of upsetting circumstance on a special day, Christmas Eve.
I'm not getting stressed out. You're getting stressed out.
I'm not stressed out.
Okay.
I'm stressed out.
Why am I stressed out? I'm going back. You're making me go back.
But everything's fine now.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You can go back. You can go back all you want. You can go back.
I'm going to need to watch this.
You can go back.
Can I get a copy of this?
3D and slow motion. So it was Christmas Eve morning, probably a little after 9 or so. It was pretty early. 'Cause I had some illness. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I wasn't feeling great, and I was just going to power through because it was Christmas Eve, and I was just kind of needed to show up and make memories for my family and everything.
Correct.
I was downstairs in the kitchen, drinking coffee, maybe having an eggnog or something like that. I like to start Christmas a little bit early. I get a text from Raleigh. I think it was just a video, actually, and it was just water basically trickling out of his shower head. Just no real water pressure. There's a number of reasons why that would be. Why it depends on whether or not it was hot water versus cold water and what other things were running in the house. So we did a little bit of basic troubleshooting. Thought we had some things covered. Thought we may have had some ideas.
If I might interject, I would say that I had little to no idea the real stakes of what was going on.
Yeah.
Because you were shielding me from that.
Right. Well, I know you, and I know a lot of other homeowners, and typically leap to a lot of the worst case scenarios.
Panic.
In these cases. Yeah, they panic. They see this, multi-$100,000 asset, and they see it's not what they paid for.
I avoid traffic every day. Like,
Sure.
I plan my drives. I knew the first thing I thought of was like, it's Christmas Eve. Whatever the problem is, you're going to sit in it. I remember when I was at the beach when I was a kid and I chipped my teeth. What are we going to do? Not only are we on a literal island, but it's July 4th weekend.
Yeah.
The one dentist, doctor, whatever.
I just took Jello shots with your dentist.
But he does that anyway. It's the Outer Banks.
July 4th, 15th.
I went right to there's no solution to be happy because I can't do this myself.
Yeah, we're going to have to celebrate Christmas in the front yard.
Dan's sick and of no use to me.
We walked through some of the more benign reasons that this could be happening, and it's not looking great. And
Which you, again, did not communicate to me.
Did not. On purpose.
I was very angry about that when I realized that. But obviously it was the right decision. But also I appreciate it. I can't look at you when I say that. I do appreciate it. It was a nice thing to do.
Telling you wouldn't have changed anything. I know more than
Not
you,
host.
and you're not going to allowed to know what I know because I always need to know more. That's maybe put it in that context, and that helps you.
How about this context? Hush puppies. Continue.
Yeah, very good.
You know more than me.
So we eventually come to the conclusion. I think you finally got under your house is what happened. And
That was not okay. That was my first time in a crawl space.
Ever, really?
And
I didn't know that.
Things I've avoided my entire life. Haunted houses. Have been able to get out of going to a haunted house successfully 99% of the time in my life. I'll admit right now, I don't like a haunted house.
I'm not a haunted house guy.
Haunted houses make me weird. You know why? Because I'm smart. Because I know that if I was an axe murderer, guess where I would axe murder people?
Haunted house.
At a haunted house.
Step one.
Nobody's going to believe you for 5 to 7 screams. So things I have avoided that. Crawl spaces. I've never had to go in a crawl space. I've always had enough money to make somebody else go in a
They're
crawl
pretty
space.
stressful when you get down to it.
Well, the one in my last house was half the height of the one that I have now and 500% darker and older. And I know for a fact dogs that had died down there. Ooh. And I didn't watch them come out, but I know they allegedly get to
that
take
means the
it.
ghost is there.
They get to take it out there. Dogs go to heaven. Dogs don't ghost.
You don't think dogs ghost?
Dogs don't ghost. Ghost is purgatory. Have you ever watched Casper?
Ghosting's not purgatory.
Yeah. You have unfinished business. It's the entire Devon Sawa.
I mean, it
didn't
is
get to go to
unfinished
heaven.
Business.
One of the ghosts' name was Stinky.
I remember that guy.
I like that.
He had like the ice cream head.
Yeah, I got him at a Burger King. He glowed
Stinky,
in the dark.
Fatso, and
Dan.
I feel like that's a cheap one. So you finally get under your house.
It's not finally. You didn't have to urge me to do it.
No, I mean we just went through a bunch of
didn't even
other
break
options
stride.
first. We went through. No, it wasn't like I was coaxing you down there. We just went through some other options first, things that you didn't have to get into your house for.
I have amazing house ears.
House ears, yes.
My house ears are amazing.
Agree.
Granted, I have what some people have dubbed hyperactive brain. I suddenly heard a flowing of water. I would say I paused for about 2 seconds, like a...
Yeah, that check.
And then I was like, I'm going to go upstairs and see if the shower's on.
Yeah.
I remember walking around the corner like, really hope the shower's on. And shower's on. Water's flowing, nothing anywhere. Open the door of the crawl space, and this is a real brag. I have a very nice encapsulated crawl space, which means that there is plastic on there, very taut, and I heard water just sprinkling up against that plastic.
We did a little FaceTime. I think I was in bed. I had a fever. I ended up having COVID.
Is it all about you? Like all of it?
Did you want me to tell the story, or did you want to just talk about how nice your crawl space is?
Next.
So you were basically we're in this state where we're up against the clock.
Commonwealth.
Not only in the sense of the store's going to close soon, but the store's going to stay closed. You have familial obligations over the next 24 to 48.
What I later remembered was my seller of that home specifically telling me about the little grates on the side and around the house that he would close and open.
The foundation, yeah.
And society has agreed that we don't know what they do. But what I learned on my own was that they actually control the airflow in the crawl space.
Correct.
When you want to keep the cold air out, you can keep the warm air in. When it's warm outside, you can keep it from getting moldy and dry. You can let the air blow through.
Yeah, during the warmer seasons, you want to keep it open so you have air circulation and you don't have stagnant, hot, wet air. Mm-hmm. And in the winter, you want to keep them closed because you want to keep that stagnant, hot, wet air to keep your pipes warm.
What I went with was just leaving them open all the time, and because I forgot. Uh-huh. And
it's forgettable.
What I also found out was that very tail end of my water line runs right inside one of those grates at the front of the house, which I would imagine gets the brunt of the wind.
So you had a nice focused breeze right on your pipe there.
I would say that it's laser focused on where the ultimate burst was.
Yeah.
Coincidence for the ages, really.
The pipes burst in a really violent way. If you know what happens inside of them, there it's really bad.
The most alarming aspect of that was the sound. It sounded like in the Titanic, like when the boat would be encountering any problem or iceberg or whatever, it would make that sort of like killer whale sound.
Typically, when water pipes burst, what happens is the entire line bursts. It's not a buildup of pressure; it's a buildup of size. Entire fixed volume pipe is full of ice and it freezes. Ice is one of the few materials that actually expands a bit when it's frozen.
So it hit its breaking point as far as the freezing process.
Yeah, the ice got bigger faster than the pipe got bigger. The same principle that your refrigerator works on, that your dishwasher works on, that your washing machine and your dryer work on, that your HVAC system work on. It's all about moisture and temperature.
So is it that juncture that I sent you a picture of a modest fire hose of water?
Yeah, but the hole was about the size of a BB, like a BB gun BB. It wasn't a huge.
I still have it.
It wasn't a burst. You just have the section of pipe.
Kept it.
Yeah.
It was at that juncture where I realized I did not know where the main water line was in my house.
Yep.
Well, I know where the meter is. I did not know where the cutoff was. I assumed they were one and the same. It is not the case.
In every house, there's a series of valves on all the supply lines. That means the water coming into your house.
Okay.
There is the one at the meter, and that determines where the city's property is as far as fixing plumbing problems and where your problems start.
And it counts how much you use.
And it counts how much you use, yes. Between that meter and your hot water heater, there's something called a water main. So that turns off every piece of water to your house, no matter what. Hoses, fridges, sinks, showers, doesn't care. Valves on the exterior water line are subject to cold weather, and the valves on the inside aren't typically. So if you can turn off your hose bibs in the winter, who's using their hose in December?
If hot water could come out, I would.
There's no real practical application for it.
Hot tub.
Your hot water heater would never keep up.
Outdoor hot shower.
That's a good reason. At every device or what they call a fixture, you'll have an isolation valve too. You can turn just that toilet off or just that bathtub off or whatever you want.
The listeners don't want to think, Dan. Don't make them think.
What do they don't want to think?
They want to learn passively and in a nice way.
All right.
The same way as I do.
That runs under the studs. The studs go this way in your house. Usually every 16 one that is running across the bottom that sits on top of your floor. That bottom plate is called a sole plate, like the sole of your shoe.
I'm a soul. Okay. I like the laughs that you don't want to laugh better. Ooh, that tickled me more than anybody else. Do you remember where we are in this story?
Yeah. See that?
Good information's often boring.
Yeah. So you get out of your house, there's water spraying everywhere. It's spraying off this plastic mat. You can hear it a mile away. Mm-hmm. And I tell you on FaceTime that you're going to have to cut this metal pipe out from under your house and you're going to replace it with this flexible hose. And you're like, you can't be serious.
No,
and
I was sitting there going, I don't care how sick you are. Just come fix it.
Do it. Yeah.
Yeah, just do it.
I'm not coming. I have 140-degree fever. I'm laying in bed. I'm not coming.
I do think that was the case. You had a fever. It was not. I'm going to say it was 5.
Now, it's in the winter. The sun goes down at 5:30. It was already getting dusky out.
I'm a guy who has a lot of shame about being the last guy to order food.
Same.
Well, I walked in to a very poppin' Christmas Eve Home Depot. They were verbally accosting people over the speaker the entire time.
Yeah, get the hell out of the store. Yeah.
I think I might have been on the phone with you.
Yeah.
Pipes on video.
We didn't know if it was 3/4 inch or if it was 1/2 inch.
We didn't measure the pipes.
Right. And I don't think you brought the piece I don't think you cut out.
And it's your attention to detail that I hired you for.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you bought both.
I did both.
You bought spares of both, bought a couple extra feet of length because we weren't sure how long the piece was that you were going to cut out, or I don't remember if you cut it out yet or not.
I feel like I haven't properly set the expectation. Things that I'm confident in my home. Basically magic, I would say.
Everything else is basically carpentry or
wizardry.
Finish work like trim or flooring or something.
But like I say that to say that
it was a big deal for you to do that.
I'm often the guy who thinks that the fear is in the abstract, like in the
unknown.
In the unknown, you will come up with the worst case scenarios that will likely never happen.
Yep.
The solve was ultimately really, really simple.
Mm-hmm.
Shark Bite, by the way, plug for Shark Bite. Shark Bite. I will give you 5 free advertisements on this. Sorry. Shark Bite. Hi. I will endorse you fully for free for 5 episodes. You saved the biggest investment of my life. I will say that, so this was Christmas 2022. What you may know about that time in the mortgage market, it was a little rough. Personally, it was a little rough for me.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
I would say that I was... the main water valve was cut off to my house. Similarly, the main happiness valve in my brain was kinked. That was me saying, thanks for helping me fix it. Just to realize how those, I really hope that I said, we'll go back and look. I'll put something in the records. The satisfaction that I got out of doing that made me feel like I could do anything in my home. If I can handle plumbing, I could probably do most things.
Yep.
And
you're right.
I would say since then,
you've done quite a bit. A lot of the mystique is behind the sheetrock or under the floor or something like that. But if someone's curious about their inner workings of their single greatest investment, they are entitled to know that. That's my deep conviction, is that if you're owning something that's $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 piece of property, and you don't know how it works, how do you know when something's wrong? Repair something before it breaks. That's insane that we just sort of kind of go through with this and just sort of accept it. But taking that plunge and saying, I'm going to tear out this wall and I'm going to see exactly how the wires work in my house.
To prove your point, if you had told me that Shark Bite cost $200, same package, same everything, happily
would have paid it.
Happily.
Yeah.
Happily. Are you saying you're not that complex?
I'm not. It's more fun for me. It's more personally fulfilling when I get to teach somebody how to solve a problem. But I don't mind solving the problem myself.
And you don't know how to do mortgages, right?
I don't know how to do mortgages officially.
Again, I will say it every single episode. Thank you to anyone who watches, listens, does both at the same time, likes, subscribes, follows, tells anyone about this show. I have really enjoyed learning and growing my ability to put something like this together. And some of the interviews that I already have in the bank for future episodes are so good. I plan to go nuts and bolts detail like I did with Scottie on HVAC, but I also want to include more informative things like the market update from the last episode. And also I want to keep it light. We have a future episode coming up where we talk about mid-century and retro design, technology, and why we ever stopped doing it, because it's amazing. But seriously, thank you to everybody who has supported and engaged with the show. It means a ton to me, and I really look forward to future episodes. As always, you can submit feedback to homeownershipexplained@gmail.com. And if you're somebody who's looking to take the first steps towards home ownership, please reach out to me. If you type in J. Raleigh Hood on Google, you will find more than enough of me. Again, if you don't type in the J, you're going to get it all mucked up by this very successful oceanographer in Maryland. We're all very proud of you, Raleigh. For Mason Mac Mortgage, I'm J. Raleigh Hood. Listen to this podcast to say goodbye to renting for good.